This is Buck, and this is Tattoos in Review. Today we're in Deptford, New Jersey at the Convent Tattoo Shop. We're here to meet owner, artist, Sophie Wescott. She's been tattooing for 23 years. Sophia does all types of different tattoo styles, but if you really want to pique her interest, you should definitely bring in a horror tattoo. The shop has been featured on Ghost Nation, and I think after you see this episode, you'll totally see her interest in the macabre and horror. Now let's step inside and let's get in. What's up, everybody? This is Buck. We're at the Convent Tattoo Shop in South Jersey with owner and artist Sophie. Sophie, thanks for stopping out today, or letting me stop by today, I should say. I know you've got a crazy busy shop here, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this for me. So let's jump right into it. How long have you been tattooing for?
Well, I've been an artist and body piercer for 23 years.
Did you basically tattoo in South Jersey, or have you traveled?
Yeah, so I've always tattooed in South Jersey. I was born and raised here. I used to work the convention circuit for a lot of years, and once I finally got a big ass shop, I said, you know what, no more conventions, and I just stuck it out here, and we love it. It's home away from home.
So where did you do your apprenticeship at?
So my apprenticeship was done under a guy named Harry Ake. Awesome. He was my mentor for many years. It was Headlight Tattoo, and that's also in this town.
How long was your apprenticeship for?
Well, I would probably say I'm not your typical apprentice. I wasn't really hired as a tattoo artist originally. I was kind of hired as the illustrator, and then I wound up being a tattoo artist within 6 months of starting there and starting my career.
So in the 22 years?
23 years.
23 years that you've been an artist. How do you feel like the industry's changed?
Ooh, that's a question for the ages. The industry has absolutely changed from when I came up. I started in 2000. So there weren't many shops around. You had your big name artists that, were in different states, different, countries. I've definitely noticed a huge influx of tattooing. A lot more people want to tattoo. A lot more people open shops now. A little oversaturated. You have your amazing artists out there that deserve all the credit in the world, and then you have your newer artists starting out that are going to be upcoming amazing artists. But then you still have your not so good artists that maybe should hang it up and not tattoo people permanently.
Now, as far as those types of artists, do you tend to see a lot of their work coming in the door to get fixed?
Unfortunately, yes. It's very unfortunate in this day and age that I'm fixing more tattoos than I'm doing new tattoos. And that's kind of a shame for the industry because, this is something permanent to somebody's body. This is a new way to express yourself. And if you don't get the tattoo that you really wanted, it's a very disappointing and harsh feeling, I think, for that individual where they expected something and did not receive it from the artist that they trusted to put it on them.
So what else do you think has changed the industry? Let's get into ink. Let's get into machines. Let's get into even just computer stuff. I mean, how do you feel like that's impacted the industry?
Yeah, so I'm old school. I was trained old school with what I always call a new school twist. I'm a slave to the coils. I love my coil machines. I don't think I'll ever change from that. I have 2 rotaries sitting in boxes in the back, and I've never opened them. I think that inks have definitely come a long way. We have a lot more colors now, a lot more great inks that are pigmented, that lay beautifully in the skin. As far as computers go, I went to college for art. We were always taught, don't let the computer dictate to you what you can do as an artist. So for me, I don't use computers as far as, other than my references and looking for research. Of course, Google's great. Who doesn't love Google? But I think that sometimes computers dictate or show something on a computer screen that the client is not necessarily going to see on their skin, as far as the way that colors look on a screen, line work looks on a screen, and sometimes you can kind of get close to that, but sometimes you just can't. And I think it gives the client, when you show them something on a computer, a false sense of what that tattoo is going to look like in their skin, since skin is a living organism.
Yeah, so I've noticed that tends to be a trend right now. Instagram, Facebook, where people are doctoring pictures. I guess that's going to bring me into my next set of questions. Do you feel like the industry has changed due to, like TV shows and stuff like that? Like the expectations are different now?
Absolutely. At first when some of the TV shows came out, I was kind of like, okay, cool. Maybe this will show our clientele what we go through on a daily basis, or the trials and tribulations of being an artist and having to make sure that what we put on them is perfect. But also too, I believe clients now have a false expectation that you can't walk into a tattoo shop and get a full sleeve in 5 hours. And
for $400.
And for $400. So, a lot of times I think the client misses the cuts in TV, progression when a show comes in. You may see a client walk in one outfit and then it's daytime, and then they don't look to the next time when they're finishing that tattoo. And now the tattoo is fully finished, and it was only supposed to be that day, and they're in totally different clothing, and now it's nighttime.
So what would you say is your style?
It's funny you ask me that, because a lot of clients will come in and ask me what is my style, and I can't answer that. In 23 years of doing this, I don't have a style.
Okay.
I work in every style. Whatever the customer requests and wants, if it's in my willpower and it's in my wheelhouse to do, I will do it to the best of my ability. Whether it's new school, whether it's neo-traditional, whether it's black and gray, photorealism, watercolor, Japanese, American traditional, it doesn't matter. If you bring it to me and that's the best style for that tattoo, I will make it happen for them to make sure that they're happy with what they have. And I think that brings me back to being a classically trained artist. I had to force myself to learn pretty much every style. Now, I'm not gonna say I'm an expert in every style, but I can fake it pretty good. And it looks, as long as that tattoo is nailed and I killed it at the end, that's where I'm happy, the customer's happy, we're good to go.
Right, so it might not be perfect.
No, but it is gonna work for that customer's tattoo.
Right.
And also, I get bored very easy. As an artist, I do get bored. I think if I stuck with one style all the time, I would be completely just in a rut, wouldn't want to tattoo anymore. So for me, if somebody brings me something different every day of the week, I'm happy, I'm excited. I'm excited to do something new and give it my all.
So I know you said you're able to do multiple different styles, but do you have a favorite style?
If I had to pick a favorite, I think realism is one of mine. I love horror. I love the macabre. As you can see, this shop is not your typical tattoo studio.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah, it's more of a museum. But I think if I had to pick, probably realism. I've always loved new school. I've always loved neo-traditional. So if I had to sit a genre, even watercolor, they would be a few styles that I would damper in that I would say were more of my favorite styles.
I mean, I know it's tough to pick because, especially like you said, you're willing to do multiple different styles.
Yeah.
But I think that there's also a tendency sometimes where people will maybe lean a certain way just because it's that time of year that they're into. I've had guys that have said, hey, I could go in there one day and the guy would be like, I'm really digging the black and gray, that's my thing. 6 months later, I can come in and the guy would be like, dude, I'm really into this color thing. I think that's cool too, because then that gives you the versatility. Mm-hmm. I walk in here and I go, hey Sophie, man, can you do this for me? And you go, fucking A, let's do it. And
that's usually how I've always worked all of the years of my career.
I also appreciate it too, though, when I walk in and I go, hey man, can you do that? And they go, no.
Absolutely.
I'd rather you say no.
Yes, and I will. The ones that I usually will say no on, I'll be honest, I hate writing. I know there's a lot of artists out there that hate doing writing. If I wanted to be a writer, I'd go write books. I'm an artist. Give me something that's going to catapult your tattoo for you and make me excited to do it. And I think that if you look at my whole body of work encompassing over the years, sometimes people will come in here and say, hey, I want the artist that did this. And I'm like, oh, that's me. Or they'll say, hey, I want the artist who did this. I'm like, oh, that's me. And they're like, wait, you did this and you did this. It looks like two different artists. And that's why it's so hard for me to pick a style, because I don't believe I have a style.
Okay.
I really don't believe I have a style, because I do love every aspect of every type of tattooing that there is.
Can you tell me about like a particularly challenging tattoo that you've had where you kind of had to overcome either with the client or the style?
So I do a lot of horror. Okay, I love horror. I love the dark. I love the macabre. The darker, the better for me. And again, unfortunately, people will bring me flowers, which I'll do a flower, cute little pretty flower. Why not? We were doing the Shining Twins on one of my horror sleeves that I've been working on. And let me tell you, I've never done them. They were one of the hardest tattoos to do because of the granulation of the photo that it came from, considering it was how far along The Shining was made, their dresses were a motherfucker. Their dresses were so hard because of all the little blue dots in them and all the little line work. And then of course their faces, because they do look like twins, keeping them that separation because they don't look identical, but still keeping it knowing that they are the Shining twins. That was probably one of my toughest tattoos I've done in a long time.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That is, man. So like it can't be a mirrored version. It has to have some kind of difference to it.
Yes.
Wow, that's really good. I didn't even think of that. I think I asked this question a lot because there's also the difficult clients, the Karens of the world.
Yes.
I've had tattoo artists tell me they'll have a hard time with hands of maybe a tattoo. Mm-hmm. So everything else they can knock out of the park, and then they get to the hands and the hands look wrong. You know what I mean? So yeah. I like to ask that question just because, especially somebody like you that's been tattooing so long, mm-hmm. you've had to have come across those things, and that's a perfect example.
That's a great example of it. Their faces, the dresses, their arms, their hands. They're holding hands in the photo. So it was a very difficult, but trying, but rewarding tattoo when it was all said and done.
But see me as a customer walking in the door going, okay, I know you can do it. You got the skill. I would have never even thought about that.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're walking into a tattoo shop and you have a tattoo that you want to do, you need to do your homework as well.
Absolutely.
Because just because it looks good on paper doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look good on skin either.
And it never does. And it's always going to have that differential look. And I try to explain that to people. When they come in, I'm like, listen, we're going to get it as close to this as we can. But every line may not be, say, in their hair. Every line may not be in their dress, because now you're taking a photo that was an actual photograph, which I'm sure the original, before the artist or the photographer took that photograph, that's something different. They always say something changes in photos. Well, now it's also going to change again in my hands when I have to tattoo it on you, because now I'm the artist bringing in that image onto your skin. That's
your rendition of it.
It's a rendition.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing too. I think that people walk in here sometimes with expectation of packing a bazillion lines into this little piece. Okay, well, you might be able to make it look good today. 5 years from now, what's it going to look like?
Yeah. And we always tell the clients that too. Sometimes they'll come in and want a face that's like the size of a dime. And I said, absolutely not. That's just not going to hold up. Right. It may hold up now. Look at it in 6 months and tell me how much you love it.
And I think that that's where one of the pieces I love about this show. Pulling knowledge from somebody like yourself that's got over 20 years of experience. Somebody's going to be watching this show that maybe has 1 or 2 tattoos that really wants to get a good piece now. Now they understand. I want this show to be where, I live in a certain town and there's only 2 tattoo guys in that town. Sophie is only 45-minute drive from me and is 1,000 times better than those guys. I'd rather drive 45 minutes and get a banging tattoo instead of going to the guy in my town who's tattoo. You know what I mean?
And I agree with that 100%. Even when clients come in here, even if they don't get tattooed at this studio, even if they don't get tattooed at your neighbor's studio, I always hope and pray that the client will do their research. You're not going to go to somebody that's doing all black and gray portraits and want a full color new school, duck on you. It doesn't work that way. Why would you ask that artist that you can clearly see excels in one style and ask them to do something that they're just not comfortable with, or you have not even seen on their website or their Facebook or their Instagram? And that's a big problem too. We get people that come in with something that's totally off the wall, that the artist is down the street, but they don't feel like waiting for that artist. Wait for that artist.
Right.
Get yourself what you want. If you're going to pay the money and you're going to sit for the time and sit through the pain, get what you want and work with that artist and wait for that artist.
So I think that's also, you brought up a really good point too with, bringing a tattoo to somebody that doesn't even do that style. I don't want to say that you guys would get offended by it, but it's kind of like, that's not what I do, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We always refer out, if we see something that comes in, or say if they, they're strict on this image that they want to get tattooed and we know the artist that can do it, we will refer them out and say, hey, look, this person or that person, this is what they do. Go talk to them first, And of course, you do have to have a connection with your artist. You can't walk in there and expect some asshole to be like, what do you want? It doesn't work that way. So you still have to feel comfortable. So just because that artist may do that style amazingly, you may not mesh with them. You may not feel comfortable with them, which also is a huge part of the tattoo process. If you're not comfortable with me, I wouldn't expect you to sit in my chair for 6 hours, and if I'm not comfortable with you, I wouldn't want that either. It just makes for a very uncomfortable, very undynamic situation.
If you could see me smiling right now, that's another reason why I did this show. I think that there's times where you can watch this show now and pick up somebody's personality.
Absolutely.
You're getting a big piece done and you're spending 5-6 hours with somebody. It's either going to be a really good experience or it's going to be a very uncomfortable 6 hours.
Absolutely.
It's happened. I've had great experiences, and I've had some like, why are you talking about conspiracy theories for 6 hours, man? You're killing me.
Or aliens.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I know you just talked about the twins. Do you have any other memorable tattoos that you're like, sticks in your head that you love?
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many tattoos that I've loved over the years and that I've absolutely hated. I'm an honest artist. If you come to me, I always said that 98% of my clients are going to love me, or that 2% are going to hate me, because I am so honest with them. And I want them to know, like, hey, this is the dealio. It's either going to go like this or it's going to go like that. But for memorable tattoos, like I said, I do work in a lot of horror. I wish I got more horror in because I just love it so much. Right now, I'm actually working on 2 very memorable horror sleeves. One's pretty much like a whole Shining, the Shining sleeve, Stanley Kubrick, Cujo. Amazing sleeve. The guy's just got great skin. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Pretty much all portraits, full color. Then we have another horror sleeve, which is the old horror scene. You have Edward Scissorhands, whether you want to consider that horror or not. You have Jason going on in there. We have, It, and he's just doing a collection of all kinds. He's got Saul in there. And they're just very memorable, awesome pieces that they stand out because they are so impactful.